Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we've got Kobe's, Kyrie's, and Yeezys. Wait, is this 2022? And some goodbyes, and of course, we have our Hard Pass. All right, guys, buckle up. Let's start with some hot takes. So, the late Kobe Bryant's iconic phrase, "jobs not finished," is now on a Kobe 4 Protro. Vanessa Bryant showed off her latest exclusive that also includes the Mamba mentality phrase, and I'm sure fans are going to have a mature reaction to it. Personally, Vanessa could show off a million Kobe exclusives, and I wouldn't care that they never release. My ire, if there is any, will always be directed towards Nike and their insistence on keeping Kobe Protros limited. Releasing more colorways in general is a first step, but getting them in stores and staying there so fans can go buy them on a Wednesday morning without any hassle, we need to get there sooner than later. More Kobe Protros, John Donahoe. The expansion of Kyrie Irving's shoe deal with Anta has arrived with our first look at the Anta Kai Tribe. It's a lifestyle sneaker that would not look out of place at a Nordstrom or a Bloomingdale's next to some Cole Haans or Goodman brands or common projects. Would definitely love to get a pair of these and unbox for your viewers, especially the black pair. Rock these with a nice casual fit and no one would even bat an eye or think you're rocking an athletic brand like Anta. Good stuff, but it does make you think, right? Like, how much influence did Kyrie have on the design of the Anta Kai Tribe? Because even when he was their top tier seller, I'm gonna guess Kyrie never had the juice at Nike to even begin discussing a lifestyle component to his brand. And if he had a key part in the design of the Kai Tribe, would we still have the same excited reaction if it had the swoosh on it? Or would we have hand-waved it off like we did Nike Sportswear's attempt to create lifestyle versions of LeBron's and Kobe's and KD's nearly a decade ago? We brushed those off back then, but I could see a sneaker community accepting them now as basketball shoes, except Kai's and AE's are still struggling to break through. Shout out to Adidas. They dropped a whole bunch of Yeezys on Memorial Day, or the new Yeezy Day as his stands like to call it. So we didn't have to talk about it on last week's show. I imagine if there was a lot of advance warning about this drop, this would have been a huge segment of last week's show and we'd have had gone all in with facts and figures and quotes from renowned industry veterans about what another unloading of Yeezy means for the world at large. Or we would have made a one-liner about it, a stan or two gets mad in the comments and we move on. I mean, it would have been a coin flip. Shame there wasn't a size 11 for co-rider for one of those 700 by the time he checked online. That would have been his first Yeezy since Adidas sent him the Turtle Doves back in 2015. He was literally at Disneyland when he got the message from an Adidas rep in Germany that they surprised him with the pair. So he had to drive home in the middle of the day to make sure that no porch pirate would steal it. That's how special Yeezys were. Once upon a time. Anyway, all right, for our pick of the week, more Yeezys. All right, I'm going to run through some of the other Yeezys that outlets are reporting will drop anytime between June 3rd and June 9th. For the rest of the sneakers dropping this week, make sure you check out our weekly Heat Check show over on the main Kusto channel. So I'm going to go through these fast. So the Adidas Yeezy Slide Salt, $70. They have it in Pure for $70. They have the Adidas Yeezy Basketball Knit Energy Glow for $300. Then we have the Adidas Yeezy 700 V3. And that's going to come in Safflower, Fade Salt, Copper Fade, and that's going to be $210. Then we have the Adidas Yeezy Boost 700 in Salt for $260. Then we have the Adidas Yeezy Boost 700 V2 in Static for $300. But if you want the Adidas Yeezy Knit Runner in Sulfur, or if you want it in Faded, that's going to cost you $210. But you could want the Adidas Yeezy 500, and that's going to come in Granite or in Utility Black or in Blush, and that's going to cost you $210. But there's a Bone colorway from 2023 that's also $210. But then you can just flip the whole thing and just get the Ash Gray, and that's $200. But there's also the Yeezy Boost 350 V2 in Flax for $230. But if you want the 350 V2 in Beluga Reflective, they also have that in Dazzling Blue, and they have the V2 version in Core Black and Red, which is the 22 version for $230. But there's also Zebra. That's $230, but it's the V2. But if you want the regular, just the Boost 350 in Pirate Black, that's $230. But if you want the V2 in Blue Tint, that's $230 as well. There's also the Yeezy Desert Boot. I was going to call it the Desert Boot, but it's not a Desert Boot. It's actually a Desert Boot. So the Desert Boot is going to come in oil, and that's going to cost you $200. Then they have the Yeezy Foam Runner, and this is the MX Cinder for $90. And then the final one, well, not the final one, there's a bunch more. These are just the ones that we wanted to talk about. You have the Adidas Yeezy Knit Runner Boot in Sulfur, and that's going to cost you $400. and I need to breathe. All right. Congratulations to Charles Leclerc for winning the Monaco Grand Prix, aka the crown jewel of F1. Well, okay, after getting into F1 through Drive to Survive on Netflix, the Hard Pass crew was led to believe that everybody loves the prestige and spectacle of Monaco, kind of like Augusta National and the Masters Tournament in golf. Turns out, a lot of F1 fans don't care for Monaco because they feel it's the most boring race in the calendar. And we gotta say, after watching the race live for the first time, they're right. We're not going to say the race was unwatchable because we're just now getting into the groove of watching F1 live and still getting a hold on things, but other than the opening lap crash that knocked out Sergio Perez and the two Haas cars and the minor controversy that allowed Carlos Sainz to stay in the race after the red flag despite having a punctured tire, it was chalk. It was like picking all number one seeds to make it to the NCAA Final Four. The top 10 for Saturday qualifying maintained their positions. Apparently, that doesn't happen that often in F1, even in Monaco. Like, the Saturday qualifying was infinitely more interesting than the actual race on Sunday because there's just not a lot of room for drivers to take risks or do overtakes. Having said all that, it was pretty damn cool to see Charles Leclerc win his home race for himself, his late father, his family, and his fans after failing spectacularly to even do well in previous attempts, which included 2 pole positions. Third time's a charm, and I'm sure Netflix is going to find a way to make this whole weekend look like the most dramatic and nail-biting race of all time because of the Leclerc of it all. And while we might be getting ahead of ourselves, this season might actually be shaping up to be more interesting in terms of the chase for the drivers and constructors championships. If Ferrari and McLaren can continue their upward trajectory, maybe Red Bull won't just sweep both awards so easily like they have in the past few years. And before we move on to Hard Pass, we just want to share our condolences to the families of Grayson Murray and Bill Walton. As many of you know, I work with the PGA Tour on a show called The Cut that covers their signature events, and throughout that job, I've seen everybody on tour, from the biggest stars to those who are working their way up the ladder to become one of those stars. Murray was one of those on the come up. He won as a rookie back in 2017 and showed plenty of flashes of brilliance. However, he battled with mental health struggles and alcoholism for a long time that made him believe he could power through anything. He recently put the bottle down and started to turn things around, winning the Sony Open back in January, 8 months after his last drink. But as we all found out over the weekend, even when things turn around, it could come right back, sometimes worse than before. There's no need to psychoanalyze his last putt or to act like we know what people go through. The only thing we can do now is honor his memory and to be present for others who we know are going through something, whatever it might be. And if you're that somebody watching this, it's a cliche thing to say, but yes, you are enough. And if you're a basketball fan of a certain age, you probably have a Bill Walton take. If you grew up in the 70s, Walton was a generational talent who never fulfilled his potential because of injuries. If you watched the NBA during the 90s, you probably heard Walton drop some of the most absurdly funny and hyperbolic statements ever. Like, who calls a basic inbound pass during a random Clippers game at the old sports arena the greatest inbound pass in the history of basketball? Bill Walton, that's who. For over a decade, Walton endeared himself to millions of fans around the world with his passion for the game and angered just as many with his hot takes. And while nothing tops the discourse about LeBron versus MJ versus Kobe in terms of absurdity and futility, if you want to get people heated about basketball, ask them about Bill Walton. His legacy will be debated until the end of time because on one side are old sports writers and players who saw prime UCLA in early days Portland Walton and contend he is among the greatest to ever play the center position. And on the other, the biggest group of haters who think he was a bum. Like, there's no middle ground here. You either think Walton was a GOAT-level center who was robbed of his prime by injuries or you think he's the most overrated figure in sports. Yeah, sports, not just basketball, sports. You don't have to search too hard on the internets to find hot takes that either love Bill or hate everything he stands for. However, I do think one thing that's undeniable, no matter where you stand on the Walton debate, is that he loved the game. Like, he was probably the type of person who had stories for days about playing against legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Moses Malone, or teaming up with the legendary Boston Celtics frontcourt of Bird, Parrish, and McHale, or going to Grateful Dead shows high as a kite. Love him or hate him for the past 50 years, he gave you a reason to care. And that in and of itself is a heck of an accomplishment. Rest in peace, Bill, and rest in peace, Greyson. Our condolences goes out to their families, their friends, and their fans. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like Nice Kicks' list of the greatest KD sneakers of all time. To celebrate the launch of the Nike KD 17, our good friends over at Nice Kicks posted a list of their picks for the best Nike KDs ever. It's pandering blog content. Take it from me, because nothing says we have nothing else better to do today, so let's put out a list for easy engagement. Like, take Apple Music's list of the 100 greatest albums of all time, or anytime Rolling Stone drops a list that makes a lot of people happy because their favorites made the list and pisses off even more people because their favorites were either too low or didn't make it at all. So, in the spirit of having nothing else better to do, and because we couldn't come up with an actual hard pass this week, here are Hard Pass's picks for the 17 greatest Nike KD sneakers of all time as a response to Nice Kicks' list, because we want to start beef. Just kidding. I actually love the folks over at Nice Kicks. Here we go. So, number 17, the Nike KD 17 Sunrise. Like, nobody at Nike will ever admit to it except for maybe Kevin Durant himself, but there has been a malaise when it comes to Durant's signature line for a very long time. Maybe it has something to do with the way a lot of basketball fans turned on KD when he joined the Golden State Warriors, but you just don't see the public popping up for new KD sneakers like they used to. Not to say there hasn't been a few bangers like the ones that made this list, but they have been far and few in between. Is the release of the Nike KD 17, along with the retros of classic KDs from the early 2010s, the start of the flip? Time will tell, but there is certainly a lot more energy in new KDs thanks to the 17 than there has been in a pretty long time. Okay, we probably spent too much time talking about one sneaker, so we're just going to speed through the rest of the list. Number 16, Nike KD 6 Liger. Super underrated KDs that nobody talks about. A tip of the hat to you if you've got a pair of these and rock them with Nike Elite socks in mid-2010s when that was a vibe. Number 15, Nike KD 14, Kai D. A joint venture with former teammate Kyrie Irving. The long-term potential for this collab was unfulfilled as their Brooklyn Nets experiment went up in a smoke of bad IG stories. Another example of what could have been with Kyrie and Nike. Number 14, Nike KD 12 Aunt Pearl. An amalgamation of previous Aunt Pearls produced inarguably the best singular KD sneaker since he left OKC. Number 13, Nike KD 6 Elite Eyeball. With so many eyeball KDs in circulation, we had to put at least one on this list, so we went ahead and put the one that is, I would say, the most aesthetically pleasing. Number 12, the Nike KD 3 EA Sports. The failure of NBA Elite 11 to even hit stores prevented this pair from becoming more legendary, but co-writer never forgot about these. Number 11, the Nike KD 6 Black History Month. Like the eyeball, we went with the prettiest Black History Month pair, so we went with this purple and gold colorway, although a close second goes to the KD 5 from the previous year. Number 10, the Nike KD 5 Elite Home. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was wondering why it was yellow and blue when KD was still in OKC, but looking back at it now, was KD projecting a Warriors move a few years prior? Nah, maybe. Who knows? Number 9, Nike KD 3 Christmas. Holiday-themed signature shoes were a Nike staple during this time, and the KD 3 being included alongside the Kobe's and LeBron's was a sign that the swoosh really believed in Durant. Number 8, Nike KD 4 scoring title. KD was all about the buckets, and this particular scoring chap colorway of the Nike KD 4 is our fave with blue and yellow. Another Warrior sign, and the graphics on the strap. Number 7, Nike KD 6 What The. Look, let's be honest. Nike got a little too what the crazy after hitting pay dirt with the first few iterations. The KD 6 What The gets lost in the conversation of the best what the's, so here's our way of saying, don't sleep on these. Number 6, Nike KD 4 Weatherman. The theme was alternate career paths if the basketball thing hadn't worked out. So if KD did become a weatherman, would he just go viral every other week because of some height-related thing as he was forecasting? Number 5, the Nike KD 1 Seattle. It's a memory of a simpler time. Plain and simple. Number 4, Nike KD 4 Galaxy. So this was the breakout hit of the 2012 All-Star Weekend that included the Galaxy foam posits. I feel like this was really the shoe and the colorway that brought KD into the limelight. Number 3, Nike KD 4 Nerf. I'll never forget seeing someone dropping thousands of dollars in cash for a pair of these, and the seller, with zero hesitation, declined at an early days sneaker con. That's when I knew this sneaker thing, it was about to blow up. Number 2, Nike KD2 Supreme Creamsicle. This is a forgotten gem during the early days of KD's signature shoe line. The OKC Perfect colorway was the first sneaker of KD's to really get a lot of attention beyond the diehard sneakerheads. It's a theme that would continue until KD left for Golden State. Could the KD17 get a creamsicle colorway as the KD is coming back to OKC conspiracy continues? We'll see. All right. And then number 1, the Nike KD4 on Pearl. Best colorway, best story, best model, a loving tribute to someone who meant a lot to Kevin Durant, the person, not the all-time great hooper. And then an episode where we talked a lot about people who are no longer with us, only fitting we close it out with someone I'm sure KD considers a real MVP alongside his mom. By the way, all these years later, now more than ever, we're confident that KD's heel turn didn't start when he went to Golden State. It was when we had all our jokes for his "you the real MVP" moment. That was a real, pure, and beautiful moment of a son expressing his gratitude to a parent, and we had nothing for it but jokes. So next time you're wondering why KD doesn't seem to give a f***, we have no one to blame but ourselves. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I am Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week. If you'd like to be featured in a possible future episode, give us a call, 818-493-9325. Leave a short message, your social media if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.